can he do? I mean, this is who they are. Kendall Kaut was there. He covers Baylor men's basketball. And, Kendall, when they were on like a 1 point, I think it was 2.5 points per possession, looked like they had the game exactly the way it wanted. But, man, they were absolutely dominated inside on both ends of the court. What's the wreckage look like in your opinion?
I think it's pretty bad. They have locker room access now at the Big 12 tournament. So I was able to go into the locker room, talk to Jalen, Adam, Key, LJ, John for quite a bit of time. And everybody knew what the obvious answer was for what ailed Baylor today, rebounding. What was it, 44-15, I think was maybe the final number I saw. Iowa State has more offensive rebounds than Baylor has total rebounds. Iowa State's starting point guard, Damon Lipsey, has 11 rebounds. Baylor's starting fifth-year senior, who started on the national championship team, has 0 rebounds in 29 minutes. And I like Flotan a lot as a human being, but it's not acceptable for him to have 0 rebounds on a day you're getting punked on the glass. I mean, that's a situation where somebody needs to hit somebody down low, bump them, whatever has to happen. But just a really disappointing performance for Baylor. And to now lose to Iowa State 3 times on the year, 2 times in 5 days. You just got punked by him in Waco. You got punked by him in Kansas City. You got punked by him in Ames. Just absolutely awful. I mean, Jalen Bridges told me they were men today. We were boys. And I think that sums it up absolutely well. Just did not expect Baylor to lose that way. I can't remember ever watching a Baylor team get crushed on the boards like that. Quite frankly, I can't even really remember watching a college basketball team that's not, a SWAC team versus Baylor ever get punked like that. So I really do think when King said punk, Smokey, I think he absolutely is right about that.
Baylor's 22-10 heading into the tournament. They'll probably be a 3 seed now. Kendall. Now, the argument can be made that half of their losses are to 2 teams in Kansas State and Iowa State. 2 of their other losses are to Marquette and Virginia. So everything that they've had is a good loss when it comes to quad 1. Where's their reason for legitimate optimism, and where's their reason for legitimate pessimism?
I think legitimate optimism is if the team gets fully healthy again. And sorry if there's some background noise as you deal with the struggles of Kansas City, fellas. But I think the legitimate reason for optimism is that Langston Love, I expect to play next week. Scott Drew mentioned in the post-game presser when I asked him a question about rotations that he thought Langston would be back for the NCAA tournament. Dale Bonner's played quite well lately. I think once you do that, you can shorten the rotation for other guys. Jalen Bridges played 38 minutes of incredible basketball today. I think he can play all 40 minutes in an NCAA tournament game. So you take some guys out of the rotation that aren't playing well, feel optimistic there. You mentioned, Paul, about 5 of the 10 losses being to Iowa State and K-State. Maybe you feel better when you have different guys that can go in those games. If Keontae George isn't asked to do quite as much, Adam Flagler can catch a breather because Dale Bonner showed he could be a backup point guard again, like they thought in the preseason. You get those things going. Baylor shot like they shot today, and you just figure that Baylor will not get out-rebounded like that again. Baylor may lose because defense is bad, and it has been bad almost all season, but they shouldn't lose a game like that again. Now, saying you won't lose a game like that again doesn't mean it's not going to happen. I think the pessimistic case, though, when I think about that, Paul, is just the defense has been bad all season. You can play zone, you can play man, you can switch everything, you can trap everything. At some point, you are what you are after 32 games. What Baylor is not a good defensive team. So they're going to go as far as Keontae George, Adam Flagler, LJ Cryer can shoot them. Hopefully that's far enough that Baylor's Houston again. But you do wonder if Baylor has a 4 of 19 3-point shooting day. This team is not like the national championship team where Baylor could shoot poorly against a team as talented as that Villanova squad was and come back and win. They've got to shoot well in the NCAA tournament to have a shot to make it deep.
Kendall, is it fair to say this is like the Bryles era Baylor football squads where you just got to score a bunch of points and then hope that you get enough stops along the way?
I think that's exactly right, Craig. I just think it's hard to have any faith in this defense. I talked to Keontae for a while after the game, and he mentioned that he felt like all they had to do was rebound and get a little bit better attention on the scouting report, but the defense was getting better. Keontae George knows a lot more about basketball than me, but I do think that, it's something he wants to believe, but they just have to show it. They had a good defensive performance against Gonzaga in South Dakota, but any other game this year, even the big games Baylor's won, UCLA, KU, it's been the offense that carried Baylor. And so I just don't know why we would expect after 32 games suddenly the defense is going to be great. I do think it's like those Bryles teams in the respect of they got to outscore people by a lot more, and so hopefully that can keep happening for Baylor. But as that era showed on the field, that's a risky formula if you want to be a national champion.
Yeah, absolutely. As far as Iowa State goes, I mean, they've obviously been through their own ups and downs. I mean, everybody in the Big 12 has to some extent, but I mean, to go 3-0 like you said, I mean, that's just not something that you expect to happen. What is it about the Cyclones that they are such a bad matchup, but also what do you just see from them in general as they move forward now into the rest of the postseason?
Greg, I think Iowa State's a bad matchup because they can get so physical on defense. Baylor plays a game where they want to move around, they want to work off the ball. They don't always want to have to make the quickest decision. They want to take you off the dribble. Well, Iowa State gets in your face, makes it hard for those off-ball cuts to work, makes it tough for Baylor to get to the rim. So that's where they're really excellent. Iowa State went on that 4-9 stretch in the season, which could offer hope for Baylor that their recent malaise is not terminal to the season. But I think Iowa State showed they've got good players. Taman Lipsey was starting to shoot a little bit more in the second half. They're a team that I think could make a run in the NCAA tournament because nobody plays hard defense like them in a lot of these other leagues. And so if you're let's say it's a Sweet 16 game and you're UCLA, well, you haven't played a team that can defend like Iowa State. That's a chance that UCLA could have a disappointing end of their season. So Iowa State, as long as they don't have a bad shooting day, which they're capable of, I think Iowa State's a team that really could make a run in March. So that also might be some solace for Baylor fans that Iowa State's a good team, they're a tough team, and maybe they're just a tough team that Baylor played on 2 bad days in the last week.
Kendall, I know this maybe sounds like I'm directing a little bit at Flo Thamba, but, we're talking big boy athletics. He's been a phenomenal player for them. No one started more or played more games in Baylor men's basketball history. He's taken advantage of having the extra year. But it's kind of hard to watch lately, and maybe more than lately, with him around the rim, with his ability either strengthen his hands, which could crush mine, and or ability to control a ball anywhere around the rim. He missed a dunk today. That happens. But still, the ability to just go up strong. Handling the basketball, got no rebounds. You'd think one of them would have landed in his lap. Is he only as good as others inside around him?
That's a difficult question, Smokey, but I respect you asking it because that's the thing you have to wonder about today. I didn't get a chance to talk to Flo. I planned to do it, but he was there for a while. Like, he made himself available, but I was talking to some other guys first. There's really, to me, there are days, you can do some spin zone or, talk for the guys if you're me or you're somebody else. You just can't spin this performance, right? You are a fifth-year senior, all the accolades you mentioned, Smokey, and you get 0 rebounds, which is not acceptable on a day where nobody else is rebounding well. You've got to be the guy after Flo Thamba that goes out and rebounds. So, I mean, I don't want that guy to get a flagrant foul, but he should have been, I think, pushing the limits about what's flagrant, what's anything else, if he has no rebounds in those 29 minutes. And then, again, I know we all don't like to call out these guys because they're younger guys, they're developing people, just we all are every day, but especially at that age in their lives. But when Caleb Lohner came in with 2.5 minutes left and nobody boxed out the free throw shooter, and Taman Lipsey just went in and got the ball, laid it in easily for a layup. I mean, no play better encapsulated the day for Baylor. It was just like they were out tough. And it's just disappointing to see because part of why I get kind of passionate about this, and I know a lot of people do, is this team has a lot of talent. These are all good dudes. The coaching staff, same deal, great guys, great coaches. And it's just frustrating because you feel like they're leaving something on the table with how they're performing lately.
This is a team that could, outside of Flo, theoretically, and we know Keontae George, all be back next season, Kendall. Let's just take a deep run off the table. Say that doesn't happen in this tournament. What do they need to build? How do you think they will build the team with some of these parts returning to solve some of these issues?
Yep. So, Paul, I would be shocked if John does not come back. So I think John will be back. We'll see if Jalen's back in the sense that Jalen Bridges has another game like that in the NCAA tournament. I would think he'll go through the NBA draft process, and pretty easy to really like the way that guy plays basketball with how effective he's been lately. He's a good defender. So you just kind of wonder who all comes back. I would assume somebody will try and make LJ a big offer in the portal. I know he loves Baylor. I hope Baylor can put together an offer that's comparable if that happens. But you would wonder with LJ if, somebody might make a portal offer to him. That's, Matt Meyer, if that's what happened with him going to Illinois, that's certainly what it sounds like. So there'll be portal opportunities for people at Baylor. I would be absolutely floored if Adam Flagler comes back. I think he's going to be an NBA player next season, so I think he's gone. So I think the question becomes, do you trust LJ to maybe be the point guard? They've got Jacoby Walter coming in. Miro Little's coming in as well. I think they probably will have to portal a guard. And then even if Jalen comes back, I think they might have to look at portaling a wing as well. And I think Baylor will probably just gamble between the 5-star freshman they've got coming in from Arizona. Josh O should be back, and then John, I think, will definitely be back. That trio, with another year of John to recover from his injury, that'll get it done inside. And you just hope the defense is a lot better next season to make up for the offense not being as good with Adam and Keontae gone. And I'm hopeful that LJ will come back to Baylor. I don't have any inside info telling me he's not. And I think he really does just think about it, day at a time. I got to grind through the season. But I would expect a lot of people, if you're a rich school, I don't know why you would make LJ Cryer a big offer. And I hope if you're a rich Baylor donor, you would say, we'll make one right back to him.
Kendall, how have your expectations as far as the remainder of this season, the postseason, how have they perhaps changed as of late, or are they about the same as they were?
I think I'm a little more down on this team now, Craig, than I would have been recently. I think the thing is just those two games like that. It just always seems to be a new problem with the defense. They get something fixed, a new problem pops up. They do this, can't rebound. They do this, they can't guard people out in front of you. And so that's just my concern. Is I don't know how this defense gets better. And then it comes down to shooting. Could Baylor get hot from the field for 5 games, make the national championship? They could. But I could also see, Baylor goes 3 of 18 from 3, can't defend, and then suddenly they're losing a 3-14 game as well. And if you had told me that in early November that would happen to Baylor, I would have said no way. So I think the floor is much lower for Baylor. I think the ceiling is still very high for this team, but the floor is both much more probable and it's a lot lower than I would have thought even 2 or 3 weeks ago.
What kind of team they need to match up with a team that's like them in the postseason?
I think they need a team that can't kind of get in your face and guard like Iowa State can, Paul. So I think UCLA to me is the perfect example of what Baylor can be at its best. UCLA doesn't defend you up in your face. They kind of play a more lackadaisical defense, but they're going to try and score a million points a game like they've done quite a bit. And so I think when you look at a team like UCLA, that's a team you'd be happy if Baylor is the 2 seed or the 3 seed in that region. But I do agree with you, Paul. If it's a team like K-State or a team like Iowa State, you don't feel real good for Baylor doing that matchup. Luckily, there aren't a lot of teams out there like those 2 teams. But if the bracket comes out for Baylor, you want to see elite offenses matched up with Baylor, not elite defenses.
Kendall, I was just curious, your thoughts. There's a ton of storylines around the rest of the league, obviously, right now. But Mark Adams in particular, just from a basketball perspective and having paid close attention to Texas Tech, just your thoughts on the turnover that's coming there.
Very unique situation, Craig. Kind of there were whispers in the media circles before all of the recent news about his statements came out or whether he spat on a player, that there were people at Tech that wanted to move on from him, that he didn't get along well with the donors. I don't know that all that stuff's necessarily true, but I can just tell you, Craig, I heard a lot of whispers about that from media folks who be at a site about what was going on there. So very strange that you go from the Sweet 16 one year to the reports that everybody on the team was going to transfer out, is what I think Jeff Goodman said if Mark Adams stayed. I don't know what happened. It seemed like that was his dream job, a Texas Tech alumni. He had owned a hockey team for a while, so quite a weird journey. If you had told me when they lost to Duke in the Sweet 16, 1 year from now Mark Adams will resign under a cloud of some off-the-court issues, I wouldn't have believed it. But that's kind of a reminder the world can change quickly. So if you're Baylor basketball, hey, if Mark Adams can go from Sweet 16 to fired, you can go from not getting any rebounds to making the Final Four is maybe something to believe in. But certainly, Craig, a very unusual situation in Lubbock. And then we'll see if they make an athletic director change as well. Yeah, what a cool guy walking by me on the street talking on speakerphone. Wow, what an unbelievable thing to hear. But, yeah, very weird situation. And I wonder, too, Craig, when I look at that, is Kirby Hocutt going to be allowed to make another hire? I mean, Joey McGuire's been a home run hire, I think. But other than that, you look at, man, this is the same guy who hired Billy Gillespie. He hired Mark Adams. Chris Beard did well for a couple of seasons, but he really hasn't nailed very many hires. So I just kind of wonder why he's the guy who's going to get to make another hire at Texas Tech.
By the way, this Baylor Athletics segment brought to you by Richard Carr Motors, Buick GMC Cadillac, people you can count on. Kendall, what seed will Baylor be Sunday at 3?
I think that's the most likely. There's still a chance for a 2 with all the Quadrant 1 victories Baylor has. No losses outside of Quadrant 1. Also good high-level Quad 1 victories, including KU and UCLA and Gonzaga on a neutral site. But I think the most likely outcome now probably is a 3 seed. You look at it, you feel secure that KU, Houston, Alabama, UCLA, Purdue, Marquette, I think are all definitely seated above Baylor. I think Texas is as well. And then the question just becomes, okay, is K-State and they're above Baylor? The head-to-head is not supposed to make a difference for that, but I think if K-State wins tonight, they've definitely locked up being seated above Baylor. But their non-conference schedule is bad enough that maybe Baylor still edges them out for right now. I think Baylor's either the top 3 seed or the second highest 3 seed is the most likely outcome with a very outside chance to stay at 2. My best guess is 3 right now. All
right, buddy. Thank you, Kendall, for jumping on with us, and appreciate your time. Kendall Kaut covers Baylor men's basketball for 365 Sports and Sic'Em365.com. So right now with Georgetown.